last night to see if he was barefoot. Is that still the case? Is he barefoot? Because I know on Facebook somebody posted a picture of these could be his shoes, or is that so he is presumed to be barefoot at this point?
What I can say is that his mom says all of his shoes are accounted for at the house. I'm not going to say that he's barefoot.
All right.
Allegedly!
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. Here's a brief disclaimer for tonight's show. Let's watch.
That's ignorant! Allegedly, that's ignorant! Ignorant.
Judgment, Aslı.
Boy, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinin.
You mean shining?
Shh! You wanna get sued?
Judgment, Aslı.
You just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a-running. But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time.
Hey, yo, father. I love him when he does that.
Let's watch.
Don't get me back to good bullshit.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative, and it's so good to see everyone tonight. Happy Monday night. We're almost into Tuesday, but good to see all of you. And hey, Town Chat Cafe, good to see you. Thank you for hitting the like button, you guys. Hey, Seclusion Works, good to see you. And Panda Bear's mom, so good to see you too. And thank you so much, Panda Bear's mom, for having a conversation with me today. I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk about Devlin. And we are going to, let me put Devlin up really quick. We're going to do a live about Devlin Tait, right? And he is a 19-year-old boy who went missing from Lake Odessa, Michigan. And he's been missing now for 5 months. I did post a news clip of Devlin, his story, but we're going to get um, into a deep dive, and we're going to have Town Chat Cafe join us as well. Here it is. And let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys. But that way you guys can see who we're talking about here. There we go. And thank you so much, GA64, for the green hearts. Thank you so, so very much. That's Devlin, guys. He's missing. Lake Odessa, Michigan, if you all are familiar. So I'll just kind of leave that up. $6,000 reward for any information about his whereabouts. To find him, we need to locate Devlin. His family misses him, wants him back home. Um, Seclusion Works says, I don't want to be in bed again for the night, so I'm moving to my chair. Oh yes, Seclusion, that's great. Fixing up a good spot for the night. I'm so glad you're here. And let's see who else we have. Hey, Chuchi. And yeah, so also, guys, Chuchi had a great idea about working on a spreadsheet together for Sebastian Rogers' case. So we're going to go back through all of the interviews. I just have to kind of get them down to size, right? I want to have them, when I post them from the originals, I want to have them down to bare bones, like where we're just listening to what the Proud Feet are saying, and we're going to take out all of the fluff, right? For the most part, unless there's some long pauses that um, are needed for context, or if a question is asked. But I really want to kind of get down, all of the questions from the chat that are, relevant, things like that. So I'm working on doing that, and transforming those a little bit in order for me to play them, like, replay them in their entirety on the channel. And then we're going to go over those again in Sebastian Rogers' case in order. And there's a few that I might not have out there, so we're going to try to figure it out. But so good to see you, Chuchi. Thank you so much for being here. Again, Panda Bear's mom, thank you. And Canadian True Crime 2024 is here. Good to see you, Canadian True Crime. Thank you for being here. And Seclusion Works, you're hilarious. Denise, thank you for being here. Hey. Oh, I'm so glad you were able to catch a live. I know it's hard, right? Sometimes I get so excited because I miss people, and then I'll watch the replays and stuff like that. But I know it's nice to catch a live and be able to conversate in the chat, or converse in the chat. Hello, Leslie, keeping it real. So good to see you. Also, Ann Brock is here. Good to see you, Ann Brock. And Kiki. Hey, Kiki, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Hello, first day of autumn. Yay. I put my big pumpkin out yesterday because I couldn't find any pots at all. And I asked the lady, and I couldn't figure out where, she says, oh, they took them. I said, oh, good, because I just saw them a couple of days ago. I thought I was going a little cuckoo. Hey, Tina girl, good to see you. Thank you for being here. And so, but I got that great big pumpkin and drilled a couple holes in the bottom. Hey, Holly S. And so I was going and liking your guys' comments, but if you didn't see it, I'll show it to you here after we talk about um, Devlin Lee Hatfield Tate, right? Um, Sweet kid. Um, and well, there's a lot to his story, and I'll just read the flyer because like I said, we're going to do an in-depth live about Devlin. So Devlin Tait is 18, has been missing since April 21st, 2025. He was last seen at Carl's Supermarket in Lake Odessa, Michigan around 8:21 a.m. Devlin was on foot and wearing a black zip-up sweatshirt, white t-shirt, blue jeans, and black cowboy boots. He has brown hair, brown eyes, like he does in the picture, right? A really cute smile on him. He also has he was wearing blue jeans, and he liked to take walks, guys. One unique thing about Devlin is he did like to take long walks, and he had a routine of walking. The day that he went missing, he was going on a regularly scheduled walk, and he did like to walk around in his cowboy boots. I confirmed that today with Panda Bear's mom. So he does have brown hair, brown eyes, 6 foot tall, and weighs 170 pounds. Devlin is diagnosed with autism, ADHD, cerebral palsy, Tourette's, and has a chromosome deletion. If you have any information about Devlin's whereabouts, please call 911 or contact the Leona County Sheriff's Office at 616 527 5737. 616 527 5737. And, he's been missing for 5 months, so we're really trying to spread some awareness about him. Right. And Panda Bear's mom has been doing that in the chats. And I'm so grateful to have had her do that and spreading awareness all around the true crime community, because a lot of cases don't get that kind of exposure. And every person deserves to have that, right? We all need to stick up for each other. Hey, Adam Forever 21, good to see you. Thank you for being here. So we have that. And please let me know your thoughts if anybody is familiar. I know Mr. and Mrs. E, they did a live on Devlin. I'm going to listen to that one. Also, Jay over at Crime Time Buzz also did a live about Devlin. So I want to share this really quick. Give me 1 second. Why did it take me here? Oh, maybe because I didn't click on the right thing.
New tonight,
That's my fault. Okay. So this is a quick news clip. And this was from, well, let's look, 4 months ago. And it was May 1st, 2025, right? And Devlin actually went missing on April 21st, 2024. So this is going to be a little after he went missing, May 1st.
New tonight, the family of a missing Lake Odessa teenager is hoping someone knows where he is. Devlin Tait was last seen April 21st on surveillance video at Carl's Market downtown. 13 on your side's Kiara Patterson spoke with his family. She joins us now with the latest, Kiara.
Juliet, Devlin's family says his disappearance has been a complete shock, and they're hoping someone can help bring him home.
Heartbreaking and gut-wrenching.
That's how 18-year-old Devlin Tait's family describes the past week and a half.
Our family is going through a living hell that I wouldn't wish on nobody.
It was supposed to be just another Monday. Devlin, a routine walker, left home for a trip to the store, but this time he never returned.
I didn't think anything of it really until like 10 o'clock hit, and then I was like super worried, especially when I went to places and couldn't find him. Then my heart just sank.
Sabrina Cook says her nephew was last seen the morning of April 21st on surveillance video at Carl's Market in downtown Lake Odessa.
Okay, guys. So it was normal for him to walk up to this Carl's Market. It was also let me see. I have a note here. I just wanted to refer to it really quick. It's 2.8 miles away from his house, but that's how much he really enjoyed walking. He also had a couple of stops that he made as well, but this is where he was caught on surveillance camera.
He's 6 feet tall, weighs 170 pounds, and was wearing a black sweatshirt, white t-shirt, jeans, and cowboy boots.
He's got a goofy personality, brown hair.
He's well known in the community. He frequents Buddies on the Beach, Carl's, Penny's Pizzeria, the laundromat.
Devlin is diagnosed.
Okay, guys. So she mentions the laundromat. That is one of the stops that he did make that day. Yeah, really sweet boy, right? Like, he's so cute, and he just enjoyed being out in the community. He was well known in the community as well. Hey, little Miss Sharon, good to see you. So he's definitely someone who made an impression on other people within the community and enjoyed being out and about, right? Hey, Andrea, good to see you. Oh, hey, Robini, dabbing in the chat. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Hey, Little Redo, good to see you. Welcome in, guys. Yeah, thanks for being here. We're just kind of doing night court tonight because I haven't finished the whole video that I've been working on either, and then I wanted to get um, a good video of kind of how far a keychain flashlight can go in the dark. So I'm still kind of working on that.
With autism, cerebral palsy, Tourette's, and fetal alcohol syndrome. He's now been without his critical medication for over a week. His family is working closely with police, but with no solid lead.
And he's obviously this is a picture, with his family, part of his family, but he's obviously got some issues um, that are going to be really unique to him and will um, just be things that could hinder him getting back safely. He was also taking medication, which was mentioned here, and I think it's important to note that if he doesn't have the medication, it could, cause him to have some behaviors that are undesirable for whoever's with him, right? So just to kind of put it out there. Um, Hey, Joe. Joe, you think the rapture's happening tomorrow? Oh, goodness sakes. Where'd you hear that? What channel did you hear that on? Hey, Robini, number 18. Thank you, Robini. Joe's grand entrance. Andrea. Oh my gosh. He makes me laugh though, so I just love Joe to pieces. Okay. Forget me not, good to see you. So thank you so much for being here. Hello, she says to everyone. Um, but yes, so there's definitely instances and circumstances is a better word, circumstances that would prevent him being able to get home by himself, and also just him being out and about, right? He's used to doing that, but he also is used to coming back home. It's not like him to not come back home, things like that. um Town Check Cafe says, Lady Freedom, yeah, according to Panda Bear's mom, that part isn't true about the alcohol. Oh, thank you, about the alcohol thing. And that is from his bio mom, too. That information is not true. Right. Thank you, Town Chat, for reminding me. So, because I didn't know if they mentioned that in the clip, but they did actually add that into the clip, right? And we did discuss that. So, thank you. Yeah. So, that part is has found to be false, speaking with the biological mother, right? And there's a lot more to it that I want to get into, but thank you, Town Chat, because that's one thing that is something that bothers me quite a bit about that, because of other findings, right? So that's why that is important to note, because by all accounts and everything that the research that I've been doing today too, um, with Panda Bear's mom and Town Chat Cafe, um, yeah, I don't see any evidence or indication that his mother is a bad mom. And I think he cares about his mother, loves his mother, and she loves him and cares about him. Is my takeaway, major takeaway, and that part is not true, which is awful for her to have to have that being spread around. So thank you so much, Town Chat, for reminding me. Hey, Kiki, good to see you. Thank you. No, I went on late tonight. I usually go on like 11 or 11:30, but tonight I pushed it up just because we were doing the research on Devlin's case. But yeah, by all accounts, he was known and liked in the community. So here's just a little bit more of this news clip.
They're asking the public to check security cameras and report anything that.
Oh, this is, I'll rewind it a little bit to you guys. But these are his boots, right? And he really loved wearing cowboy boots all the time. That was his thing.
Security cameras and report anything that could help. With his 19th birthday just weeks away, his family is holding on to hope that he'll soon be found.
Devlin's birthday's in 25 days, and I hope that he's home before then. We can only hope that he's still alive, that he's okay.
And if you have any information about Devlin, you're asked to contact the Ionia County Sheriff. Juliet.
Thank you, Q.
Okay, guys. So, just sad, you know, it is very sad that we're seeing just more and more kids just, you know, kind of walking, I guess, walking out of the house. I will say this for Devlin. He was caught on a security camera at Carl's, right? The supermarket. And Andrea says, I love Joe. You know, what at the supermarket. So that was a good place, you know, that he was seen. And we'll talk more about kind of the theories and kind of where we came to that conclusion on our Thursday daytime live. It'll be scheduled for 1 p.m. Eastern time. So we will dive into the case then, because we still want to kind of get together to structure it out. But I think you guys are going to enjoy learning more about Devlin and his case. He's a sweet. Oh, I'll check, Kiki. Thank you. He's a sweet kid from all accounts. And like I said, you know, he likes to walk. And that was the thing that he did during the day. And he would go out and he had a curfew and all of that. But we will get into that too. Oh my gosh, they said that at a rally, Joe. Oh my Lord. I thought you heard it on these streets here. Oh, needing prayers tonight. My heart's broken for my son. What happened? Oh, what happened, Kiki? Is it in the text? I haven't looked. I have not looked, but I do have my phone over here. Yeah, it's out of Lake Odessa, Kiki, and there's not a whole lot of information like mainstream. There are some creators who have covered it, but I will say, you know, if it wasn't for Panda Bear's mom, I would not have heard about it. She's advocated for uh the last 5 months really for Devlin. Yeah, and so I remember seeing her, you know, in chats and stuff like that, talking about Devlin. And, um, you know, I was like, yeah, if you want to come up on the panel and we'll discuss and I'll share the flyer. And so we're just kind of doing that this week. Um, but yeah, it's, I don't want to say too much, you know, without giving away, you know, his story, but just that he's still out there missing. And you know, things aren't adding up. It is the patterns. Town Chat even says here, yeah, there's so much that is really unbelievable. Shaking my head. This is going to be another Luke 8:17. Yeah, and I mean, there's something being kept in the dark. Town Chat, there's something being kept in the dark. um you know, yeah, Joe, he does have special needs. Um, so because he has a chromosome deletion, he also has um cerebral palsy. He also has said well, and this is a, you know, I guess I guess it would be a special need, ADHD, you know. He does take medication for those for you know, some of the things, but he's autistic as well. So he does have a lot of challenges. Tourette's is another diagnosis that was mentioned. Panda Bear's mom says in some rural towns there's less information on him. That's why I'm the advocate for him on here. Yeah, and I so appreciate you, Panda Bear's mom, because it's so important to remind people, and you do have to be persistent. You really do. We have to with all of these cases to keep them to the so they don't go cold. Adam Forever 21 says, this sounds like he was stalked by routine. He's big and someone knew his barriers, in my opinion. Lord, heartbreaking. I agree with that too. Adam Forever 21. We were definitely discussing that today. That the same route is dangerous, right? When someone takes the same route and is in a routine, and if somebody was to want to find someone in that way, it would be easy for them to do so. So you're spot on, in my opinion, with that, because we definitely discussed that today. How it would make him more vulnerable, being that he did like to take the same routine. And the only reason I know that is because I learned that whenever I was going through domestic violence, um, counseling and things like that. That's one of the things in the safety plan that we discussed, was not taking the same routes, so I wasn't easily stalked. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very sad. And it's not always, the parents or the family, I hate to say, sometimes people do, run away. Sometimes kids run away. Sometimes they just need to know that they're loved and they're cared for. But I think with all of his issues that he has, or challenges rather, even, I think it would be just out of character for him to run away, So, and it does seem to be out of character, most definitely. Chuchi, thank you so much. Panda, keep advocating for him. Yeah, absolutely. We have to, guys. And the thing is when we meet resistance with that, that's a good indication that somebody doesn't like us digging into what's going on. And the only people that would have a problem with that are people that are guilty, in my opinion. Kiki says, yes, we need to get more information on Devlin. Yeah, just, getting his missing poster out there is such a big deal, right? And this is a small area, a small town. Everybody knows everybody. And according to Panda Bear's mom, when we were talking, people are very interested in what happened to this child, and they want him to be found. And tensions are, still high at 5 months. People are not used to this kind of thing happening in their area, and so they're highly concerned. You know, and Kiki, that is, I do have his missing poster posted to, um, on my community post as well. Let me see if I can't just share this thing down over here. Yeah, because I could just share this post and then you guys could share it out however you'd like, onto the, Facebook, or if you know somebody else who enjoys true crime, text them, the photo of Devlin. Joe always keeps us on our toes, right, Andrea? He's so funny. I know, and it's a lot to keep up with too, Kiki. It's a lot to keep up with. Yeah. I mean, it seems that they did do a lot, and we'll also go in more in depth of what we know that the authorities have done, or kind of things that we can check off the list of things that we can think of. But they seem to have been good about following up and figuring out what happened, you know. Yeah, and it is enough to worry someone sick. And I'm sure people in the town feel that way and, in the area. Aw, I'm so sorry, Kiki. Okay, I just got your message. I'm sorry. I just looked over or grabbed my phone. Oh my goodness. I'll tell you, that stuff is so wrong to do, in my opinion, to kids. I think the locals are probably, suspicious as well, Um, I don't see how they can't be suspicious when looking at some of the details in this case, Aw, thank you so much, Kiki. You're so sweet. Yeah, girl. I mean, we were definitely thinking about that, that from those familiar routes. I mean, because people that's how they so creepy to say it. That's how they find you. They're following you. That's enough to make somebody so freaking paranoid, But it's true. And and it's about being aware of your surroundings too. And then you think about, maybe sometimes Devlin wouldn't be aware of his surroundings, or would his deficits cause that? It's hard to know when we don't know him. It is. It's very difficult. So thank you, Chuchi. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kiki, too, for sharing the flyer. It's so important, just to keep up awareness. And a lot of people, you know, don't know about these kids. Like I said, I did not know about Devlin until Panda Bear's mom was sharing in the community. Um, Little Miss Sharon says, my autistic daughter just went poof today walking down the street. Uh, I rang her nothing. She met me back in the car and I said I was walking in front of her and didn't care about her. Oh no, Little Miss Sharon. Oh my goodness. Oh no. She went poof. That's so hilarious. And I mean, oh, thank you, Kiki. Thank you so much. And I mean, it's scary when that happens. It's so scary. I love your little look. Look. No, it is. It's got to be so scary, and that's why I'm always I've got my guard up with these people that don't want to talk about the kids or share about, or, it's just there's certain things and patterns that I like to kind of identify if I'm looking at a case. Just to kind of get a feel for things, Yeah, he is adorable and he needs us to help. That was the main thing, Panda Bear's mom and I, that's our main conclusion that we came to tonight, I think, is that this child needs help. And Town Chat Cafe, I know she knows that too, because they've been working on this too together. And just and that's why we're gonna do a panel about it. Because all of the research put together is what helps to figure things out, in my opinion. Um, yeah. So the neighborhood GA64, that is a great question. Um, I wonder about Devlin's neighborhood in town, the crime rate or offenders. And he's so used to walking back and forth, 2.8 miles, so a little over 2 miles a day, going back and forth. He likes to go to Carl's. You heard his family members talking about how he enjoys going to the different places, like the pizzeria. I think they called it Penny's Pizzeria. He also liked to go to the laundromat, right? Because we found out too that he will charge his phone there. So there's a lot to kind of examine with the case. So yeah, very scary. It's so scary. Oh gosh, no, Kiki, you're not interrupting at all. I'm glad that you texted me. Text anytime. I'm sorry if it takes me like a second or 2 seconds to get back here because I was like I had my phone on the other side. I was charging it, so I had to kind of like I had to maneuver around to grab it. Um but no, girl, it's uh, like I said, maybe one of these days that would be a good subject for a live, you know. Yeah, Devlin, and that's the thing, you know. We did discuss that as well, how easily influenced he could have been GA64, you know, and that is a really great point, you know, that he could have been easily influenced or taken advantage of, right? Little Miss Sharon says autistic life. Aw. That's awesome though. You're such a good mama. And you know, that's the thing. There's so many great parents and caregivers out there. Um, you know, it's just you really gotta hand it to you guys for um, you know, just giving so much love and, and care and having a sense of humor too. That's the greatest part. You know, for the kids too, I think. Aw, Chuchi says, Panda Bear's mom, I'm always willing to help. Thank you so much, Chuchi. Yeah, these kids, I mean, they really need it. When we see a really great need for it, I think it's just hard to say no to them, right? And say, well, I can't cover that story. Or, I mean, even when we just look at Devlin, let me put him back up here. It's hard not to just say, you know, how come this kiddo's not been found yet? So yeah, yeah, and I mean, the weird thing is he's not the type of kid that doesn't come home on time. So when they realized that he wasn't home, like in the clip, she said around 10. Well, that was because you know he had a curfew and he was usually home by a certain time, you know. So hey, Kylie's nail candy, good to see you. So you know that's one thing that is interesting about this case. Um, Aw. Yeah, and that's the best part too, Little Miss Sharon. I agree, is, you know, the kids know when they're loved. They really do. And they know when they're not, you know? It that's something that we, you know, unfortunately, thank you, Andrea. That's something, unfortunately, that we see all the time in these cases as a major, you know, we call them red flags, but you know, patterns that we're used to seeing, right? And they the dynamics that exist in many of these cases across the board, right? CPS involvement or you know, people thinking that there was something going on, people hearing things going on. You know, typically there's warning signs that we see in the true crime cases. So, um, oh gosh, I have tons of notebooks and my handwriting is terrible when I am doing the chicken scratch. I'm capable of having legible handwriting, um, but yeah. So you know, in this case, like I said, we'll kind of walk through, you know, everything that we've kind of come to the conclusion about, um, you know, on Devlin's case. But you know, the fact of the matter is he's still out there somewhere. He's a big kid, right? Big guy. Um, you know, he's over 6 foot tall. So, um, or excuse me, he is 6 foot tall and weighs 170. So he's a big guy. And you know, he's out there somewhere. A little bit Sharon, I'm glad you're here. And I'm glad you feel comfortable sharing too. That is the good thing about online, it is. So that's what I'm talking about. I think we should talk about it, Kiki. I'm not going to know a whole lot, but I have heard about it. And I mean, I think people know that it definitely exists, in terms of um because look, there's a lot of politics involved, right? And then, these guys just couldn't stand it if their team lost. No, I'm just kidding. Joe, are you still in the chat? Am I being sexist over here? I don't know. I think Joe's the only guy that I saw in chat tonight so far. So tell me if I'm being offensive to anyone, but I mean it's crazy. It's ridiculous, and the kids, are the ones that suffer always. Oh yeah, Panda Bear's mom, you'll do great. You'll do great. Yeah. And then once you do it, it gets so easy. Um Little Redo, she says my earbuds dying over here. I know that. I just put mine on the charger. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Kiki, that's terrible. Oh, that's cool, Robini. He says, Kiki, I went through that with my son. Money talks apparently, but guess what? My son played for free because we were low income, and he placed second all in state. Wow, that is crazy cool. I mean, sticking it to um, the assholes is always nice. I'm so sorry that the kids have to deal with stuff like that. It's always amazing to me. It really is. Yeah, absolutely, Panda Bear's mom, and um, all the hard work and dedication always, always, always pays off, and people they recognize it. Um, yeah, it's awful, but at least it was a positive outcome. But I think a lot of parents would relate to that subject, Kiki. I'm sure they would, especially if they've had to go through stuff like that in the past. I wanted to play because I know we watched the one Peter Hyatt, so I wanted to play the other one about Chris Proudfoot. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to take this one. All right, that's fine for now. All right. So let's see. Yeah, and that's a lot of it. Kylie's Nail Candy says singling kids out because of income is how bullying is started in schools, in my opinion. I agree. I agree. Well, and there's a lot of jealousy. If these kids are really, really good, they start acting like a bunch of buttholes about it. Instead of just saying, well, that's, the luck of the draw or whatnot, or that's where this kid would prefer to play. They cause a whole ruckus over it, which is uncalled for, and the kids should be able to, play in an environment they're comfortable in where they're going to be successful, in my opinion. Um, and I just really believe that. Okay, guys, let me take a look. Sorry about that dead air for a second. Let me take a look here and pull in the interview with Peter Hyatt, where he talks about Sebastian Rogers. Right, and he is the late great Peter Hyatt. He is no longer with us here. All righty, there we go. And that's Peter's page. If you'd like to go over there and check out his other videos, I highly recommend him. He's very good. And we watched The Key to Locating Sebastian Rogers, right? We know Katie holds the key, according to what Peter believes. But I would like to review with you all tonight Peter Hyatt speaking about Chris Proudfoot. And I want us to review that on Night Court with Lady Freedom. So that's what we're going to do tonight when it comes to Sebastian Rogers' case. So let's get right into it. And let me share my screen here without this lady who's wearing a bra, and that's it. All right, here we go. All righty. No worries, Leslie, keeping it real. Thanks for being here. Yeah, he is. He's amazing. He really is. He is awesome. Alrighty, guys, let's go up here to Peter and we'll get started here.
Welcome to this broadcast. Please let me know if you can hear me and see the screen, because I'm going to put a statement up in a moment. Just anyone let me know that. I'm talking about the case of missing 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers, who went missing nearly a month ago. And I'd like to capture a few points for you and just comment on some of the language. How is my audio? Anybody? I think I'm getting there in terms of improving some of the quality of this, but okay, good. I'll start with the original interview that they did, and actually some of the behavioral analysis, and then some thoughts on the interview itself. So behavioral analysis, the first thing we look for when a child goes missing is for the parents to cry out for the child. Absolutely just cry out for the child, and to be what will appear to be at times distracted in interviews because they're spending all their effort and energy worried about what the child is experiencing at that moment. Just the pattern of innocent parents. And, regrettably, but beneficially in terms of analysis, in terms of understanding, there's been too many of these crimes to not have some form of data put together. And what we find is no different than if you were out shopping and your child wandered off, you'd start yelling and looking immediately.
Okay, guys, so I just want to stop right there. And again, we did watch the live where Peter had Seth up on panel, so we have absolutely established that there are many experts in the field, like Peter Hyatt here, who believe that Chris and Katie are the ones that hold the key and that their behavior is suspicious, right? Because there's no reason that we should ever see Katie with her windows rolled up driving through the neighborhood not yelling for Sebastian if she doesn't really know where he is, right? She didn't stop the bus driver, and she was allegedly out and about at the same time the bus was, right? But she did drive up to the school and drive around the parking lot, but she didn't get out of the car and go into the school, right? The first place I would have ran to was where the animals were. If I, in fact, didn't know where Sebastian was, I would go to the school and I would go straight to where the animals are held and housed, right, for those classes. Again, this morning we talked about a live that Terry Lynn did when she went back to Beach High School for her class reunion, and there was a whole big room full of different animals, and that's where I would begin. But I would absolutely have my windows rolled down, and I'd be looking to see if I could find Sebastian. I would be yelling for him, and she's not doing that. And that just goes to Peter Hyatt's point here.
In this particular case, 15-year-old Sebastian is autistic. I don't think in any way it's mild. I think there were significant challenges for him. In this case, he lived with his mother and his stepfather, who was ready to move to his father's. And in that initial interview, the media labeled it breaking their silence, which I thought was an accurate tag to give it. And you ask yourself, well, why would anyone be silent when their child is missing? And I don't know of any circumstances where police have said be silent. I think the standards set long ago, polygraph me, get the media in front of me, I got to get my son or daughter's name out there, face out there, that sort of thing. We didn't see that. We didn't see that. We had to have the silence broken. And so that first interview, I concluded in terms of statement analysis that mother and stepfather were concealing information about the case and the time period of the information that's missing.
All right.
Was just before he went missing, just before he, in their words, he left. And so that I knew immediately something was wrong with this case. But some other observations on the language. Mother and stepfather did not give an indication that they knew he was dead, at least in the language. With respect to others' opinions on that, I could be wrong on it, but I'll explain why a little bit, why that is. So there was nothing for about a week, no calling out, nothing. And then we saw this video where, to me, I'm not a body language expert, but it looked like a hostage video to me. Blink twice to tell me you're okay or you need rescue, where he dominated and he was in control of the information. After that, it is as if they have gone on a tour. And what it really is an apologetic tour, apology meaning defense of the stepfather. Now, I'm going to comment on some of the interviews.
And we also talked about this too, guys, right? So we talked about how when Pat Brown was talking about different instances, right? Well, I'll just back up. I'll say this. We went over 4 different interviews in a live stream on Pat Brown, criminal profiler and author, right? She did her first video on Sebastian March 13th, 2024, calling it huge red flags. And she's talking about Chris and Katie, by the way. She's not talking about Seth here. Also, she said that she wasn't going to do another live stream about Sebastian unless more updates came out or something was brought to her attention. Well, then she subsequently did a March 19th live, March 21st, and then 25th live, right? So we covered all of those. And, the long and short of it was that she found many, many red flags with Chris and Katie. Also, the silence, Katie pleading the fifth, right? Pretty sure she lawyered up very early on in retrospect, in my opinion. also we heard her talking about how there was more red flags with the parents' interviews, and we also talked about the fact that Chris and Katie were looking out for and watching interviews about themselves, and that is typical of people who are trying to conceal guilty knowledge or some kind of involvement in a crime. They will often watch news, reels about themselves, or would look at the newspaper about themselves to see if the police were on their trail at all, right, so to speak. So Crispy spends all of his time trolling through YouTube, right? We know that. And they were changing what they were saying as time was going on based on what the experts were saying. Hey, forget me not, good to see you. We are all Peter Hyatt, Joe. Goodness sakes. Um, I am Peter Hyatt. I like this guy. He's a good guy. Um, and and I value what he says. I really do. I value his statement analysis. But he's definitely saying that Chris and Katie, their first interview with Holly Thompson, I think he's referring to that one. It looks like a hostage crisis, and blink once if you need my help, kind of a thing.
Control of the information. After that, it is if they have gone on a tour, and what it really is an apologetic tour. Apology meaning defense of the stepfather. Now, I'm going to comment on some of the interviews. I can't separate which one is which. There's been too many. So they got the memo. People were upset they weren't speaking out. Now they're speaking out all the time, and the content is so important. The content is this: Chris is a great guy, and people should mind their own business, and a common theme for him is, you better respect me. In all that I've heard, other than at times an interviewer directly asking, I've not heard Chris speak of what his stepson is going through while missing. Chris perceives himself as a victim, and he's ready to fight. I know that some of the interviews are very difficult to watch or listen to because the interviewers just talk and talk and talk, and they don't understand. They don't hold the information. He does. And now that he's allowing her to speak, she does. Let them speak. Let them speak for themselves. When someone asks a compound question, it allows the person being interviewed to pick and choose what he would like to answer. When they ask a multi-compound question or go on in a moralistic sense, right? There's no reason to moralize in a case like this. A child is missing. We want the information. But when they ask a multi-compound question, very likely the subject of the interview, if he is showing deceit, which Chris is now, he's going to pick up on one of those things and use it for an answer because they're suggesting answers. So it's frustrating. They don't know that, they don't have training in that.
Yeah, and that is frustrating, and they don't have the training in that. And then sometimes they can't ask the follow-up questions, like what we were talking about earlier in Lily and Jack's case. That in Canada, our friend Andrea was sharing that the government runs the media, and so they're not allowed to ask the hard questions or follow-up questions, or probative questions, the ones that dig a little bit deeper. Even a follow-up question could be misconstrued. So that it's very interesting how that plays out. But I agree with Kiki here too. The context of everything is so important. That's why in these interviews, I don't want to steal out any of the context. I want to make sure I take out, oh, thank you for your membership or super chat or blah, 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 blah. Like all of those things that don't matter, but everything else is very important. And also some of the commenters and comments that were left in the chat, there were even people in there that were close to Chris and Katie at that point. Going back to talking about the Duchess interview, the very first interview that the Proudfoots did back in March. So Little Miss Sharon says, I totally agree with Peter. However, I don't agree with Sebastian being locked out of the house. Oh, no, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know if he had the code or not. But I also don't think that that's, and that's why it's really important too to go back over these interviews as well, because it's interesting to see what the take and the perspective was back then. And we know so much more now than we did back then. So it's a very interesting, and this interview, guys, just to give us a little bit of context, I'm so sorry I meant to do that. And thank you, Little Miss Sharon, for your comment and for reminding me to look. Now this streamed March 21st, 2024, right? And it says, what do we learn about this case from many interviews that missing 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers stepfather, right? So looking at the stepfather. So, and I mean, some of the things that he's going to pick up on is going to be kind of amazing to us, but also interesting, right? Knowing things that we know now is going to help us kind of understand things better than what was going on back then, especially with these interviews, because that's what I really want to focus on when we re-examine these interviews, is comparing things to what we know now, right, to be true, that we didn't necessarily know back then, or have the things that we didn't actually know back then, or have the confirmation on back then, I should say. Tina Girl says CP is a monster, was worse than an asshole, which is worse than an asshole. Tina Girl, I agree. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, he just keeps flapping them, that jaw away. He really does, Little Miss Sharon. He's told on himself so many times. Thank you, Kiki, for dropping links in the chat. I really appreciate you. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up, Robini says. Thank you, Robini. Hey, Captain Jules. Good to see you. Good evening, everyone. It's been a hectic few weeks with the world for overnights at work. I've missed you all. We miss you too, Jules. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. The government runs the media here now. Well, I mean, I think that's fair, Joe. I really do think it's fair to say that the media does, the government tries to run everything. They do. But I think it's a little bit extreme there, more so than here. We are lucky, I think. All right, so let me go ahead. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any comments. So good to see you, Jules. Yes, no, it's okay. I never tag anybody. I'm terrible at tagging people. Well, usually I don't chat on my computer. Like if I'm in a live chat, it's always on my phone. And I don't know how to, I think there's a difference there, but okay, guys, we'll just go right on to Peter again.
And they'll go on about some personal experience and they think they're building rapport. Not with him. I said recently to someone, I've interviewed him 100 times. I haven't interviewed him. What I mean by that is I've hundreds of times interviewed controlled abusers. And almost always they're a step parent or a boyfriend. And his language gives us a lot. So this morning I was listening.
Okay, guys, and I just want to pop back in really quick. Peter Hyatt is 100% correct in this, in my opinion. I know exactly what he's describing, even though it's different for him than it is for me. But I absolutely got vibes from Chris Broadfoot that he's an abuser right off the bat. You know? Sorry. Oh my lord. I'm sorry. I know, Andrea. Joe always he catches me off guard. I'll be reading comments, skimming through, and yep, always. But no, but honestly, he's so silly. But no, honestly, that's exactly the vibe that I got from Chris. It's like, oh, I know this guy. I was married to this guy. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that I was married to somebody that looked like Chris or whatever. I not even. But the same person, the same personality, the same qualities, if you want to call it a quality, tendency, right? I'm struggling for the words, but I mean, that is spot on. And he said that he interviewed this guy a million times. Well, I felt like I knew Chris because I had married somebody just like him, and I was like that. He's definitely a narcissistic person and an abuser, in my opinion. So an alpha Joe.
Into yet another interview, and the usual frustration of some of it is tainted by the interviewer. Fast forward past the interviewer's monologue, it could be difficult to get any type of a pure answer. When he goes off for himself, then we get some. And this time, and you're seeing it more now, she's allowed to speak, and speak she does. So there's some things I want to talk about that, and some of the things they said that are revelatory. So I posted on X, which was Twitter, short commentary, a little bit of analysis, that sort of thing, about my views of the case. In their initial interview, they were not just repetitive, which is sensitive, but they spoke reliably that he walked out the door. And of course, some with training will question about why a door, and the door is very sensitive.
Treating clients like family starts off with empathy. They're injured, they're hurt, they're having trouble with their mortgage, they're having trouble making rent, getting food on the table. We are there to make sure that their worries become our worries. At the end of the tunnel, there will be light, because we are there to support them each and every step of the way.
As they're speaking now, they're still staying to that, and consider they may be telling the truth. And what they may be concealing, what I believe they're concealing, is an altercation of some form and an escalation that was more than just that Sunday. That goes back and part of the history for at least, I think, at least 2 years.
Okay, guys, so this is where I want to say that this is where Peter is spot on, because I believe the same thing based on the timeline. It might be a little bit shorter than 2 years, but it was definitely brewing, right? Because we know that when the first CPS reports came out, we know that now. We didn't know that back then. So I just kind of want to throw it out there that he is spot on. I don't necessarily agree that something snapped in Katie that night. I think this was something that was brewing, right? I think it was a snowball effect, a domino effect, whatever effect you want to call it, right? But it still was a culmination of events that were happening and things that were right in the family, in the dynamic between Katie and Chris, and then we have Sebastian getting blamed for everything, in my opinion. And I apologize, guys. I got up to use the bathroom. That's why there was, such a long commercial break there that I usually skip over. So, but again, very spot on with um, what Peter is assessing here, right? And he's an expert, and that's how come, or that's the reason why he can do that in such a way right off the bat in March when this first all was happening.
I'll get to some of that questions. So one of the things I posted on X was that Child Protective Services should be fully engaged here in a full investigation, and they should interview everyone, including the paternal grandmother, Seth's mother. She has said she has information. She needs to be interviewed. She needs to be heard. She should have been interviewed by law enforcement, but no less, Child Protective Services know that. One of the things that happens with a missing child case, you say, well, why would Child Protective Services get involved in a missing child case? Because we don't know what caused the child to go missing. Now, let's say the child is a victim of kidnapping. Were the parents neglectful that someone was able to get into the house? Well, how could they be neglectful if someone broke into their house? Perhaps they were intoxicated. These are things that have to be known. Also, patterns of behavior have to be known. So the interviews would be with a missing child case to find out if that child is found, should that child go back to this house again? Now, I covered quite a bit a while back on Summer Wells' case. And the drug involvement alone would invite all sorts of trouble onto that property. And then there was the language from the father that indicates sexual abuse. And it was a really bad case. And she's still technically missing. So we want to know, is the child in jeopardy if the child returns to this home? So we need to know what the home was like. We need to know the quality of the relationship between mother and child. We need to learn the history. That means, in this particular case, mother, stepfather, bio dad, grandparents, aunts, uncles, teachers, coaches, pediatrician, neighbors, anyone. And one of the questions asked, do you have concerns? And what you may learn is, yeah, we've had concerns.
That is such a great question that is so straightforward and, kind of easy to just ask, did you ever have concerns, right? It's not overly probative, but it's also just something that could leave it up to that other person's discretion to say, oh my gosh, yes, or no, I really haven't, or, here's one thing and it may mean something else, but here's what I took it as, right? Something like that. But it does leave it open. It's a very open-ended question, and it's a very good question to ask anybody that had contact with Sebastian regularly, within the last year, in my opinion, they should have been asking. And even especially since he switched over schools, that's when you may have to go back a little bit further than that. And that's maybe why Peter is saying 2 years in this case, because he's concerned with what his 8th grade teachers were saying about Sebastian and things like that. And I think that's important too. And we've gone over those clips in this on this channel as well. Kylie's Nail Candy says something interesting here. I have always wondered if Nina and Faith seen abuse done to Sebastian and didn't want to go back, so Chris thought he would solve his issue, in my opinion, and boom, soon after, Nina allows Faith to visit for a holiday. I don't know, but I think it's interesting, and I agree with what you're saying in regards to there's something that connects all of this back to little Faith, unfortunately, and Chris's desire to have Faith with him all the time and have control over Nina, which is how narcissistic people are, right? They don't share, they don't play well with others, right? And so It doesn't matter what's in the best interest of the child. The narcissist is very, very selfish, and so they have no regard for what the best interest of a child is. They only care about their own best interest. They feign interest in caring about others and compassion and things like that, but that's all a big act, in my opinion, and from what we've seen in research and studies and things like that. But yes, I think there is a major link with Faith, right? And she may have been the reason why. But I think they had an established parenting plan, and I think it's pretty routine when Chris has access and when he doesn't, in my opinion. But I do think a lot of it. Um, I think that Faith did witness things. I do. I do. Hey, Gabby, good to see you. Ooh, cinnamon toast crunch icing? What? Kiki says, I'm eating the cake I made, spice cake with cinnamon toast crunch icing. That sounds so good, especially like for a fall treat. Okay, so I also wanted to read one from our friend Tina Girl. Tina Girl said, I think it might have started in the car on the way home. Thank you, Tina Girl. I just wanted to read that out because I saw your other comment and then I remembered when I was scrolling through. I feel there is a connection between Summer and Sebastian. I do too. And I don't know if it's as little of a connection as that that was part of the Proudfoot's research on they them following the Candace and Donwell's handbook over there because we've done lives about that as well, or if it's more. But I've thought about that connection as well, and I also did some research on trafficking in relation to Sebastian's case and Summer's case to see if they could have been it could have been, one of the groups um that do that in the area, right? Yeah. Exactly. We definitely can see how detached she was at the Texas Roadhouse, Kylie. Absolutely. Absolutely. And she's being silent, right? Yeah, probably only telling Seth, right? Right. Yeah, Tina definitely corruption in my opinion. Yeah, I agree with that, Holly. Ooh, icing and sugar cookies. Yay, sugar cookies are so good. I like to make the spritz cookies at Christmas time. I have a cookie press that I make cookies with. Denise says the one amazing thing is CP thinks he's unique, thinks there's no one quite like him when really he's so generic. Denise, boom. Oh my gosh. Yeah, if we had a wall of fame for comments, that would be up there. The one amazing thing is that CP thinks he's unique. I've said that a lot too, Denise. He's so tired, right? He is so tired. Unoriginal. I love that though. He's so generic. Oh my god, that's so funny. That is good. You know. Um Yeah, I know, seclusion. I'm right there with you. I suspected it, and what went down was pure evil. I agree. I agree. Something majorly wrong. Yeah, they had it in the parenting plan town chat. To my knowledge, it was kind of written in the parenting plan, and it was pretty consistent. Those stay pretty consistent unless somebody goes back to court and they change it. In terms of a modification is what they call it in most family court. Um, Aw, thanks for being here, Anne. I appreciate you. brownie and ice cream. Whoop whoop. Brownie a la mode. Oh, great. Great, Kylie's nail candy. I love Lolly. We saw her earlier today. Yeah, little Miss Sharon says, I truly think CP did homework to plan Sebastian missing, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm definitely on board with that. And I think they did take out of the Summer Wells playbook. I think they took out well, I should call it Don and Candace's playbook, and Grandis. But they did. It's all of the I don't know what these parents think that they can pass the story off on us or law enforcement for that matter. I can't believe law enforcement would ever buy it, that these kids just walked off in the middle of the night and they have no explanation. And then there's no camera footage. I mean, it's ridiculous. Leslie keeping it real says good night, lady, and everyone. I can't keep my eyes open. Oh, good night, Leslie. Thanks for being here as long as you are. I appreciate you. It runs deep in Tennessee. It does, Kylie. It does. Runs really deep. CPs are a dime a dozen due to inflation. Forget me not. That's a good one. Oh yeah. Oh, I love a cinnamon toast crunch anything, Oh my gosh. Yum. Chocolate pudding. That sounds good. That sounds good. Oh, good, Kylie. I need to go in there and catch Lolly on a live. I don't know why it was giving me a hard time doing a thumbs up lately on YouTube. I don't know if they were doing some kind of a weird thing, but I went to go do a thumbs up on it was, and it wasn't letting me do it. And then I tried to do it on another video, and it was doing that. Ooh, that sounds good, Joe. Joe says I froze a bunch of bananas that almost went bad for whole grain banana bread, etc. Yum! I love doing that too. That's the best ones to use is the really ripe ones. Yeah, and that is that's too healthy. Andrea says that's too healthy. Oh, there you go. Add some chocolate chips in there. Yum. Yeah, or you could do like a little crumble on the top or something like that, so you have a little bit of grains, but um oh, that's the same lady with the shirts we need made. I know, I know. Yeah, I don't know. I need to do a merch thing, Kiki, but I don't know how all that works and everything. Um I do want to do a fun raffle when I do the fundraising for the trip here, and that's going to be in the next week. I'm going to have to get that together and rolling. So I'm super busy this week, but my email, Kylie's Nail Candy, is just going to be my channel name with no apostrophe at gmail.com. So yeah. Oops, sorry guys, I'm creaking my table here. Alrighty guys, let's get back into it here.
Or no, I don't let my own son go over there and hear the reasons why. And so it's not accusatory towards anyone. It's the gathering of information. We need to know. And so in interviewing a pediatrician, for instance, have you had concerns? He opens the chart and maybe there's red marks there. I've addressed them. And my follow-up question to the pediatrician would be, have you met the stepfather? What was your impression? Because he leaves quite an impression. So the Child Protective Services, Department of Children and Family, whatever it's called in different states, should have been involved immediately, and Seth's mother should have been interviewed right from the start, both law enforcement and in Child Protective Services. Most of my viewers know that I'm very slow to criticize law enforcement. Oftentimes there's things behind the scenes that we don't know of and that sort of thing. This should have been done. that should have been done. The history is so important. I had said recently, there's no way this guy doesn't have Child Protective Services history. No way. And then I learned this morning from listening to that interview that apparently he set up, or he insisted upon, he does have CPS history. And what he said was, in 2 states, almost as if he's bragging about it, what he's doing is he's getting out in front of it. He'll answer the accusation before it hits him. And as people who are experienced with being investigated for child abuse understand, the Child Protective Services can't speak publicly about it. So the parent or step-parent investigated can say anything they want, and they do. And the caseworker, the department that handles this, they can't speak to it anyway. So there's nothing they can say. It's all one-sided. They can give information with police, though, and should.
All right, sales team, eat lunch. Let's go.
Greg, why are you eating so fast?
No time, got sales calls to summarize.
So what does the stepfather's language reveal? And one of my associates, Jenny, did an excellent job on we call it a psycholinguistic profile, a profile based on the language. And I alluded to this when I said, I've interviewed him 100 times, meaning that there's a pattern that emerges. He has the classic language of an abuser. And what I mean by classic is that it's repetitive, it's patterned, and it's easy to spot. If someone's experiencing that, they're going to know right away. Yeah, there we go. And when he was talking this, well, for me, it was this morning, but maybe it was last night when it was aired. He confirmed everything that Jenny wrote about. He confirmed it. About being crystal clear, that emphatic forcefulness, the aggressiveness. Some of the descriptions people have used, including Jenny, combative, authoritarian. He is also acutely defensive. This is a guy that does not like to be insulted. And he went on and on and on. And he's done that defending himself. He ended up admitting that he has nothing to hide. And then, of course, he doesn't answer questions. But in this particular case, he did about his marriages. This is his 5th marriage. And if you've seen some of the transcripts from Facebook, he's on his 5th marriage giving marital advice. That's insight into personality. I don't care how many times he's been married. I care about this poor kid.
Exactly. Such a good point by Peter Hyatt. And I agree, Little Miss Sharon. Little Miss Sharon says, hold on, let me find it here. The stepfather's language says I'm an asshole in my opinion. Oh my goodness. It sure does. Hey, MC Rapping Recovery. Good to see you. Oh my Lord. Oh my goodness. I'll tell you what, that is very hilarious. And it's true. And Peter's so serious. I love it. But but that's basically what he's saying. And it's very clear. And you will see this a lot of times with narcissists that for whatever reason, and I think it's because they have delusions of grandeur. That would probably be my best correlation as to why they would do it and how it pertains to Chris Proudfoot being a narcissist, is because his delusions of grandeur are keeping him from actually realizing that he isn't a good role model as a husband to be giving husbandly advice or advice to anybody regarding marriage when he's been married 5 times, right? He lacks that insight. He actually has delusions of grandeur and that grandiosity that tells him that he's awesome, right? He has no other thought in his head, right? So it's interesting that he is giving out parenting advice as well, and he's literally on a panel talking about a child that went missing from his care in his home with his wife, who was the last one there with the child. And he goes on for 20 minutes on Smiley Stories World and tells us all how to parent our children. And he does it absolutely seriously. Like, he is being dead ass when he does this. And it's amazing. And that is grandiosity. That those are delusions of grandeur. And that's possible for a narcissist to sit there with a straight face and give us advice when their child's missing on how to raise children properly, right? Unbelievable. Hey, Women's Warrior, good to see you. Unfriggin' believable. All right, guys, let's go on with Peter.
But what matters is what he's revealing. He's had two that he admits up to now, at least two CPS investigation, or at least in 2 states. I think there might be more. At one point, he was asked about Sebastian coming between them in a sense to protect his mom. And he gave a very strong laugh. A very strong laugh. Let's see if I can get that. A strong laugh. And I listened to that. I said, oh, here's the tough guy. Here's the tough guy. Here's the guy that laughs off that someone would need to come between them. Oh, he's come between them. I think that might have come from the dad as he's speaking more. We also learned how much he dismisses questions that are relevant. There were intelligent questions being asked over several interviews. One question that he became very dismissive of was he was asked, do you lock your refrigerator? And he acted as if it was absurd. It was the mother talking about that all Sebastian ate was sugar, which means the glucose roller coaster for him and his dysregulated emotions. And so that was a good question to ask. It's one of the questions I thought, hey, someone's paying attention. Someone may have some experience there. Because there's all sorts of issues around locking a refrigerator. Sometimes it's for the child's own safety. Sometimes it's because they're being treated cruelly. But it's quite nuanced. It was a great question. Another person asked, how long have you been married? And what he says is, that has nothing to do with the investigation. It has everything to do with the investigation.
Boom. It has everything to do with the investigation. Everything to do with it. Thank you, Peter, because that really bothered me too. And I remember when Jen asked that in the live on the live stream, the very first one with Duchess. She said, how long have you guys been together? And she was given a hard time about asking that, right? What does that have to do with anything? Well, because we're trying to figure out the dynamic of the family. We're asking questions because we want to know more in order to figure it out, right? But then again, he'll sit there and say nobody knows what they're talking about, but he never wants to give us a straight answer. It's the runaround. It's the complete runaround. He likes us chasing our tails, and he thinks it's funny. And instead of giving us straight answers, he's playing a game, in my opinion. Women's Warrior says, lady, he ticks the majority of if not all of the criteria in this psychopath diagnostic checklist, in my opinion. I agree with that, Women's Warrior. Yeah. And that's what you do, you just you can look at that, you can look at those, the checklist and, oh, yep, we got that. We got that. We get this, we got that. Yeah. And that's how you can kind of identify the characteristics. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Characteristics, behaviors, traits. I said qualities. Oh Lord. So yeah, and that's a big problem too. Little Miss Sharon says he thinks he's funny. He thinks we actually want to talk to him. That's what's crazy. Kylie's Nail Candy says he's evil. He enjoys it. he enjoys it, you know? He really does. He enjoys it. It's a game. Oh, no worries. Oh, thank you, Little Miss Sharon, for gifting a Lady Freedom's Raw Narratives membership. If you got a membership from Little Miss Sharon, please say thank you and welcome to the Dragon Tribe. Thank you so much. Oh, really? Oh no, the mannequin. I know which mannequin. Lady, I found and sent a pic of a young people tagging TV standing with the mannequin. Oh, yikes. How weird. That mannequin is so strange. I don't know about that. I've never understood it. I know people were trying to explain it to me. And how weird. I'll have to pull that in. I won't be able to pull it in tonight. Oh my gosh. And what does the mannequin have to do with TB? What does the mannequin have to do with TB? I don't understand that. That's so weird. And what, I mean, lady, he would see them as quality. Yeah, he would see him as a quality. Right, right, women's warrior. Oh, forget me not. Oh, it landed on forget me not. That's so wonderful. Thank you again, little Miss Sharon. And forget me not. Welcome to the Dragon Tribe. Aw. Yeah, and I thought he had none. Exactly. Kylie's nail candy. Seclusion work says if I want a conversation with a rock like Chris, I will visit the geological store and speak with the obsidian. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I did get it. I did get that email, Robini. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, guys, let's go back to Peter and I will check the email too, but I know I did see it come through.
Your demeanor, your relationship, what the household is like. If you're saying that he walked out the house, and I think you're telling the truth there, if you're saying he walked out, we want to know why. And all these things can point to the reason why. The language where he keeps talking about how brash he is, he's brash while the stepson is missing. And when someone says that, and you probably heard this in different phrases, hey, I really tell it like it is. Okay, so you are someone who irritates others and brags about it. You're giving yourself a license to be that way, to be angry. No, this guy's got some real serious anger issues. He's controlling, he's aggressive. The mockery of Sebastian was rough, I think, to hear. Everything he wants to challenge and say, let's see the evidence, let's prove it, let's prove it. I have heard him speak a lot now for concern for himself. I haven't heard anything about concern for Sebastian. It doesn't mean he killed him. It means he cares about himself. I think Sebastian, what we're seeing in the language or hearing is what Sebastian lived under. And I think Seth is telling the truth that Sebastian didn't wear a diaper at his house, but did at the mother's house. That speaks to anxiety and could be worse. I don't want to get into that now, but in the least, it can speak to anxiety of being a 15-year-old under this super insecure, acutely defensive, controlling, narcissistic, aggressive, very little man, which may indicate that.
I love that he just called him a narcissistic little man. It's so hilarious. I love Peter Hyatt for that. Let me see. I'm gonna look at this. email that I got. Here, give me 1 second. Oh, was there an Kylie, was there an attachment with it? Did I miss an attachment? And I wanted to say thank you to Town Chat Cafe and also Jen and GA if you're in the chat. Welcome to the Dragon Tribe. Forget me not. You must have already been a Dragon Tribe member. So thank you. He didn't walk out though. It would be caught on camera. I agree. And that's an interesting thing too, Tina, because I mean, these were things that we were considering in the beginning, you know? So, okay, Jen's not here tonight. Okay. Thank you. Um, yeah, so I mean, that's she'll get a surprise. Exactly. That's so cool. Um, yeah, mistreat. Absolutely, Joe. That's a good call. Mistreating a kid that has special needs is pretty antisocial. I would say so. I would say so. Well, liking to pick on people, that aren't your own size. He wouldn't dare go pick on a guy his own size like that, but he'll pick on a smaller guy like Sebastian, you know? In my opinion, it's possible that Sebastian was given some kind of RX that made him go to sleep into a deep sleep. That could be a reason he wet the bed, in my opinion, allegedly. I mean, sometimes, yeah, like I think that could be a contributing factor, you know? Hey, Lana Lee, good to see you. He may have walked to the garage or porch and got locked out. Well, Peter was talking about possibly him getting locked out, but I think he would have been caught on that Ring camera. I really do. And then where would he have went from there, you know? So I always kind of, and I know it's annoying, and it is for me too, but it's like, okay, then what? Then what? I keep asking myself, then what? Right? So yeah, he was on medication that was causing him to sleep. Yeah, for sleep. And for Seth to say he didn't even have a door handle on his bedroom door. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Which is that's very strange in my opinion. Yeah, and I think that there could have been an exchange at the Texas Roadhouse. I still haven't, ruled that out really ever. I can't ever do that, especially because there's too much weirdness going on at the Texas Roadhouse, you know? It's very weird. Veronica says he couldn't have gotten kicked out. He knew the code to get back in. Yeah, and that's true, Veronica. They did allege that Sebastian knew the code, right, to get in. Not the code to the garage door, but to the Katie called it the man door on Nancy Grace, but she was referring to the front door of the home, in my opinion. Yeah, and it could have been a great pharma that's fast acting. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So, and again, just looking back on these interviews, it's interesting some of the things that we know now that we didn't back then too. So, but here we go.
Sebastian either left on his own or was put out by the mom. I'm not beyond that one yet. Let me give you a reason. It's a hint. I don't know if it's true or not. It's a hint. Let's see if I can show it to you here. Just a small thing that I heard her say audibly that I was concerned about. He went outside to take out the garbage because it was his chore. And what those that are in training will recognize is that there's sensitivity there. Okay, she explains why he went outside, and you'll see this. This is the explanation of why he went outside. But then she doubles up on it. And I heard that it's now very sensitive. And it's often a sensitivity that is indicative of deliberately withheld information. You didn't, once you told us why he went outside, we're done. You didn't have to double up on it. She did. She felt the need to double up on it. And I thought to myself, did she lock him out without his shoes at the behest, I think, of the stepfather, who shows no empathy? He has shown no empathy. He may respond when he's fed something, but when he's speaking freely, when he's choosing his own words, when he is now off talking, he doesn't show empathy. Did he, on the phone, tell mother, lock him out? Is that why she has this, what we call like a hyper need to explain why he was out there? His stepson is missing. He called his stepson a liar. And Chris is the victim. CPS isn't going to answer that. So they went from not speaking to now not stop speaking. He also said on this, there's someone that does a YouTube channel that he doesn't like. And this is his theme, that he's giving these interviews to make things crystal clear, of course, the emphasis, but supposedly to get his stepson's name and face out there still. And then he says, but he won't do an interview with this one fellow because he's making money off it. And you see in some of these interviews, thank you for your $10. And, you know, it seems like a televangelist type of deal. And it's distasteful. Would that stop you from getting your missing child's name and face out there? Would you really care? And then
It would not make a difference to me. It would not make a difference to me. And as a matter of fact, anybody that's talked about Sebastian Rogers has been dragged through the mud in some form or fashion, and it hasn't stopped anybody from talking about him. So why would it stop his mom? Right? And I'll just put it that way. I did hear that, Lana Lee, that it was a prescribed dose, and he had a prescribed dosage of Risperdal, and then there was another medication as well that he was taking regularly, you know, prescribed by the doctor. And that's the same for me, Kiki. Still that phone call with Bobby and her seeing something on the camera, allegedly, can't get that out of my head. Very powerful statements from Bobby. And I do, you know, think that she is, you know, part of the neighborhood, an OG neighbor. And I think she was being truthful in a lot of the things she was talking about, you know. I mean, and there are so many cameras. There are so many cameras out there too. Absolutely. It's just it's so hard to think of him not getting caught on one of them, or it being so risky, because it's so hard to tell who all has cameras, especially if Chris and Katie, you know, like if they had lived in the neighborhood, or if they had been like Bobby, I would think, okay, she's been in the neighborhood, she might know where everybody's cameras are, right? Um, Veronica truly said it was pre-planned, at least and accidental at the most, but no one is going to tell me that they have had something to do with Sebastian being gone. Yes, that is my opinion. Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. Hey, C. Taylor, good to see you. So yeah, I mean, It's hard to believe anything other than they had involvement, especially because Katie was the last one, and then I can't unsee the flashlight going back to the house where it came from. I'll never forget that. No matter how many times they take it out, I will be there to remind them. I will be there to remind them. It also fits the audio that was leaked. True, very true, Robini. Very true. Women's Warrior says lady removing the door handle suggests that they were worried about him sneaking off. It's reinforcing the theory of an ultimatum at the Texas Roadhouse, a decision he had to make that evening, in my opinion. Yeah, that's a good point. I do believe that something at the Texas Roadhouse was being told to Sebastian that he didn't like, and it did seem like there could have been an ultimatum involved in that conversation. And that's just judging off of the body language because we can't hear it. But you can tell that something's being told to Sebastian, and because you can see his reaction and you can see Katie's hand gestures, and it speaks volumes. It does leave speculation open to a certain degree, but again, um, body language says a lot. Yeah, that could have been him being carried to the car. I believe it was, Veronica. I do. MC Rapping Recovery says, I feel terrible that I said maybe he's in her house, but I watch a lot of movies and Dog the Bounty Hunters. That's it. That is, I'm sorry. Well, no, I mean, look, I don't think it's wrong to have any type of a theory, and I would never fault someone for having a theory, at all, because we're just brainstorming here. None of us know what happened. If we did, we would, you know, tell the police what we know, right? We would. I think a lot of us would feel compelled to do that, right, and to reach out to the proper authorities in order for Sebastian to be found, because I feel it all the time. You guys are here to listen about him and to analyze these interviews and what these experts have to say. And if you didn't care, you wouldn't be here. So I never fault people for having an opinion or a theory or an idea ever, because it may be something that none of us ever thought of really. Same thing with the footage, guys. Going over the footage again and again and again from the Texas Roadhouse is very valuable. Same thing with these interviews. And the reason being is because we never know what we're going to catch on the 100th try, right? And I say that because even Chris from the mob crew was the first one, after we've all exhaustively zoomed in on the Texas Roadhouse footage, for him to say, look, I think Katie is putting an earbud or something into her ears, and you can see her doing this. That's something that nobody else caught. Very valuable to analyze and reanalyze this information. Little Miss Sharon says Sebastian was definitely on medication. I think KP added to it, in my opinion, possibly. And I'm wondering if that wasn't something or the reason for her encounter with the green hoodie, in my opinion. That it is a very good point, Kiki, that Women's Warrior made. Dog didn't say a specific neighbor. He just said that, uh, it's most likely in a parent of a family member or someone that they know, like in the neighborhood. Yeah. and I do think statistically it is that way. It's someone that is close to the person, someone they know, in my opinion. Yeah, it matches with the recording. It does. It matches with the recording. Yeah, Lana, I love listening to Little Red reading. Yeah. Oh, lip reading. Oh, I thought you guys were talking about the sociopath still. Um, somebody had done lip reading, and yes, it appears you're right on track. Yeah, but you know what's hard about the lip reading thing is that we can't read Katie's lips, on that. MC Rapping says, didn't he say something like, oh, it's bad, the cop behind the house? I mean, what is that? It's so weird. Said it at the vigil. Yeah, he did. He reportedly said it's bad, it's so, so bad. And he was reportedly at the command center, MC Rapping Recovery. Yeah. I'm thinking he was on Risperdal and then he's probably on an amphetamine too. I think for the ADHD, that's my guess as well. Yeah, I would think they were giving him something for the ADHD. Lana says she didn't need any to add meds. Risperidone is very strong. Right. That's true. That's a good point too. I think in the Texas Roadhouse it seems like he's answering a question like, okay, Chris is coming over, or uh the way she was taking pictures, he had bruises and took them to show like he can go to school like this. Just saying, oh, I see what you're saying, Veronica. Yeah, because that was odd. I know it was Risperidone was one, and then there was another one, and it has a strange name to it. Oh boy. I think I think Jen talked about it on her live, and I know her and I talked about it, and I talked about some of the side effects of the other medication, and off the top of my head, I can't think of what it was. Um, yeah, that's what stinks about the lip reading. Now, if we could see both of them, it might be a little bit easier to make out the whole conversation. Um, but I don't know. You know,
Demands respect. He demanded it from Sebastian, and he demands it from the audience. He's making demands on people he has no control over.
Hey girls, are you looking for jewelry that you can wear all the time, no matter what? Our waterproof jewelry is perfect.
He's trying to control the narrative. So my opinion on what happened is that he got locked out of the house, and both are responsible. And I think there's much more in terms of domestic violence and child protective services involvement than his minimizing statement about it. Much more. This is an angry man. He's not afraid to show his anger. He'll call himself brash over and over and over. The one thing I found that was quite scripted was the mother is really good at repeating. And he said, I love you, Mama. And I think some people don't understand why I flagged that, why it's so important. It's generally a sign that someone has a need to persuade what a wonderful relationship we have. It's not that you or I say, I love you to your children, or your children say it to you. That's expected. It's the need to make that public and make it public repeatedly. So I can say, and he said, I love you, Mama, and then totally forget about supposedly searching the house and getting in the car and driving around. Because the priority is self-defense. I think they caused his disappearance because an abusive household that he was raised in.
okay, guys, and I couldn't agree more here. Absolutely, and the primary reason for them coming out and talking is self-defense. It's not in order to find Sebastian, and we know that's true because it was said on Elevated Goofs podcast when Cluminati and the rest of them were sticking up for Chris and saying, yeah, he came to the internet to help people, to ask people to help find his son, but they never thought that they actually were going to try to help find him. Right? So, and yes, Kylie, I did get your email. I'm sorry, hon. The texts are so long. I can't really give my full attention to them right now, but I will. And I'm not 100% on everything that he was taking. And little Miss Sharon brings up a good point too. KP could have been hiding meds. we may not know, and she's not truthful, and that's the big one, you know? That's the big one. Yeah, because they definitely said about the ADHD on Smiley. Um, and then that Sebastian had trouble sleeping, you know, but Chris denied that, and then Katie corrected it.
He's the language of a classic abuser. And the targets are generally women and children. So let me see if they have any questions and rebuttals, please. Because I don't know what happened, and I don't know if he's alive. Like anyone else, you lose hope. Oh, about the stepfather's language, he doesn't offer any hope. He was fed that a couple times by a couple interviewers, but he doesn't offer any help. It's natural that after all this time that he would be the first to crack. Based on his language, he did not have a good relationship with Sebastian. Based on his language. So he'd be the first one of denial, whereas you'll hear the father, who will come probably second, and the mother is still speaking as if he's alive. And again, with respect to those who have the opinion that there was more direct involvement, but I think that he was put out. I think it was discipline at this point. And, if more information comes out, if they get some clean interviews, it may look differently. But if I am with Child Protective, if I am with the law enforcement, I'm looking at an abusive household that Sebastian wanted to get away from. Some of your theories or questions, let's see if I can take them here. Again, a lot of the questions are going to be, I don't know. Where did they take him to teach him a lesson? I don't know. I don't think they took him anywhere. I think that long phone call may have been, hey, he didn't come back. He didn't come back. Well, just wait. He's got to learn. He's got to learn. This guy thinks he's a tough guy, meaning the stepfather. My concern is that he fell into water and he hasn't been recovered yet. That's my fear. My hope is that he met off with someone to run away and they're hiding him. That becomes weaker and weaker because the person that did that is putting themselves in legal risk. They could have gone directly to police and directly to Child Protective Services, the authorities, and got some form of sanctuary for Sebastian. There's always a rush to blame Child Protective Services. Remember, what they believe and what they can prove sometimes is two different things, very similar with law enforcement. His special needs and his behaviors were significant, and stepfather's telling us that. The repeating of the personal space, mom saying, you don't go into your teenage son's bedroom at night. They're telling you. They're telling you. When you think about a child going missing, how the parents, the innocent parents, how they talk. They're always concerned with what the child is experiencing right at the moment, and they bring it back. And they sometimes talk about themselves when they're asked about it, but then they go back to the child. You cherish every moment. They're what we call high hormonal events, which leave imprinting or etching upon the brain. You don't call a victim a liar.
That's a really big one, guys. And that's the thing. They tried to make Sebastian out to be someone he wasn't from the very beginning. They said a lot of things about Sebastian, to include, but not limited to, that if we knew who Sebastian was or how he was, then we wouldn't look for him anymore. And that's how badly they blamed Sebastian, who is the victim, who is the one who's missing. Right. And I agree, forget me not. He doesn't have a good relationship with anyone on the planet except for his mom and his flying monkeys. But that's not even a good relationship. That's a very toxic one. in my opinion, you know. So there's that.
No shoes, no jacket. If that was discipline, it's pretty harsh. Good comment. I think he experienced worse. I think he experienced worse. Yeah. You know, when you're talking about this type of autism with a 15-year-old, so you have puberty now coming in, you have someone who's not regulated as others are. And that's why I say, no, this was not mild. If I was his bio dad, I probably would say it was mild because I can't accept how things are. And I understand how challenging that would be, how difficult, what a heavy childcare burden that must be. And he apparently wanted friends terribly, and that didn't work out. I also wonder if some of the neighbors who wouldn't let their kids go over also said, we don't want to be around that guy, Chris. That wouldn't be surprising at all. You hear of someone with that type of anger, I don't want my child, special needs or not, around someone angry. He accused Sebastian of lying to the Child Protective Services. Yeah, regarding the neighbors, I think he was very isolated, and that could have been up. The description of the autism, I think, is, there's an expectation that loving parents will minimize because it's very hard to accept. He had struggles. I wish for immediate legislation to protect children from predatory and abusive non-biological guardians. Laws don't stop that sort of thing. We have a case here in Maine where, and this actually is a parallel, where a boy was beat to death by mother, father, and grandmother. He was still alive when he was brought to the hospital, and they did CPR on him, and the head charge nurse came out and told the mother and the grandmother, hey, his pulse is back, which the expectation would be wonderful news. They both chimed in to say, but he's a liar. They were concerned about what he would say. They both charged with murder now, along with the father. But all the laws in the world, we have the same laws that protect you and I as parents and can be exploited by others. Can't be there 24/7. What we can do is enforce laws, and that would be a different type of solution.
Well, and I think it would have made all the difference in the world, guys, if they would have actually brought them in for questioning and worked this investigation like they should have, and they failed to do so, in my opinion. They just took Chris and Katie's word for it, and they never should have done that. Mosquito Bite makes a wonderful point here. I personally feel that if they were to share why Chris thinks no one would look for Sebastian, that we would find him. And I agree with that. And I think that there is so much more to that. And I think that's a very important piece to the puzzle, in my opinion. Forget Me Not says, not really heard much support for KP other than CP. Very little circle there. Secret squirrel, little circle, bunch of nuts. Right, exactly. I agree. Well said. Well said. Town Check Cafe says, so did he take the same RX at Seth's too that he took at KP's? He had a very different um, approach, Town Chat. Seth said that he didn't give him any medications or limited them, didn't give them as liberally as Katie did. He chose more natural methods, and he wasn't for giving those to Sebastian. And, I would have to agree, in my opinion. I would avoid those at all costs. unless there was an indication that they were a necessity, because I think that the issues that Sebastian was experiencing was due to abuse and not due to his autism or his chromosome deletion syndrome. I think it was more because of his home life. So I agree with Peter here as well on that. Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you so much, Chuchi. Thank you, thank you so much. Um, so yeah, just kind of important to kind of point that out there.
Chris is laughing. Great question. What does Chris's inappropriate laughing indicate? He is dismissive. He is very high-minded. He has a very high opinion of his own opinion. He used manipulative language. He will divert. He will pause to repeat a question, and he's not reading so much, but when he's asked that verbally, as if to dismiss it. The laughter that bothered me most was the claim, which I think came from Dad, the claim that Sebastian had to get between.
Purified Air Conditioning provides fast emergency service 24/7 with no overtime charges. Honest and reliable.
His mother and stepfather, of which this guy says he had to call me Mr. Chris. So good question. I think that was high-minded dismissiveness. Also, I think it was probably insightful to what Sebastian experienced. Martina asking, can you see the mother snapped in the language? I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, I think there's quite a story to tell about New Mexico. Yeah.
Okay, guys. And then also, Peter points out here, which is very insightful too, is that there is a major issue or a bigger story to tell about New Mexico, and he was spot on with that. And Joe, I agree. I know what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying, that medication should be taken as prescribed in because in many cases you do have to take them in order for them to work. But I will say this, that Sebastian was had a late diagnosis of autism and more recent diagnosis of autism. He was diagnosed with the rare chromosome deletion, shortly after he was born. And so there was a later diagnosis. And Lana, I have heard of comorbidity, autism, with ADHD. But I'm wondering if some of the symptoms that they were, and this kind of goes to what Joe was saying too, and why typically I wouldn't recommend or think, that this was proper to take him off medications and on, depending on where he was. But I think some of the symptoms that were given to the doctor were by Katie, and I think she was again blaming Sebastian. So I think there was a major disconnect there in terms of what he actually needed and what his father saw him as actually needing versus what his mother was saying that he needed. Because I don't see Sebastian being a hyperactive child. In my opinion, he was a well-behaved child. Which one, Joe? Which channel? I know you mentioned a couple before. Yeah, Chris was using HIPAA, and so was Katie, because Katie was sitting right next to him. MC Rapping Recovery, great point. Yeah, great reminder, and she was right there, so she had every, she could have told what was going on. But they tried to play people so bad, but most of us saw right through it. Yeah, they need to be screaming from the rooftops for more resources, more resources to come in. Yeah, I would love for them to see the video. I mean, Veronica says that I have a child with ADHD and a husband has it also. Yeah, and I mean, and ADHD is you know, a definite diagnosis. It is. It is.
Great point by Jason. Jason, Peter, although you've mentioned you hope he's with someone hiding him, I also hope and he's not with someone with darker intentions. Well put, Jason, and that was some of the thoughts with Summer Wells, was she trafficked. Yeah, someone said it's very triggering to listen to him. He infuriates people. And I think his language reveals that he likes it. He likes the confrontation. I think he is, someone wrote, I feel like Chris enjoys the attention he's getting. He does. He in his mind, through his language, he's setting the record straight. He's a great guy. He has so little self-awareness that he can give marital advice after 5 marriages. Also, by the way, he's giving out parental advice. So Chris Prydefoot is giving out marital and child raising advice. That's what Sebastian lived under. That type of blinding arrogance. He reminds me of someone that would take a polygraph after committing a crime and rush in to take it to show everyone and still fail. The question was, how long has he and Biomom been together? And I'm not sure, because he played 2 different things. I think they've been married 2 years, but he may have been there. He said half of Sebastian's life. He's a hero in his own drama. This poor kiddo. If Sebastian is gone, it started when Mom met him. And I'm not sure about Mom's own background. Yeah, he's the perfect parent, and all he cares about is priority.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to just say to this too. Hey, John Emery, I just want to say that I think that it didn't start when she got together with Chris. I think that Chris was wearing the mask that the narcissist wears. And he was wooing Katie. He was love bombing Katie. He was, you know, promising her everything. And, you know, she obviously fell for it, which, you know, I think anybody would. And I don't fault her for that. But I would have to disagree just slightly here with Peter and say that I think that everything stopped when and this also the plan came into play uh, when they moved to Tennessee, and that was because I don't think Katie knew that this is what Chris had in mind the entire time. I think he let the mask drop in Tennessee because she was isolated at that point and only around him and his family, in my opinion. So, just disagreeing slightly with Peter, and that's only because of what we know now. If it was back when this video took place in March of 21, I might have been singing a different tune. But the reason, and I might have been agreeing 100% with Peter here, but the reason why I don't is because we've heard about how Chris would take Katie and Sebastian on deep sea fishing trips and to faux restaurants and go camping in California, or excuse me, go hiking in California, and all of these different things that stopped when they moved to Tennessee, in my opinion.
is himself. If it was all about the child, he would have been out there immediately in front of the cameras saying, here's his description, here's his behaviors, that sort of thing. Yeah, and I think someone said Katie walked on eggshells. It's a great description. I think that she's now allowed to speak more, which is helpful. But I think that she is likely a victim, and maybe she's made some very poor choices in the past as well, a pattern.
You know, and I agree, and I agree and I disagree here. I think that Katie is a victim of Chris's control and abuse and narcissistic abuse, but I do also think that Katie has a personality disorder. I think that she actually is thick as thieves and just as toxic as Chris is, right? And I think that she chose to take Chris up on the ultimatum and, ultimately choose Chris over Sebastian, in my opinion. Right. Yeah. C. Taylor says, but when did she get rid of Sebastian's cats due to CP? That was when they moved in together. C. Taylor. Yeah, so to my knowledge, that was like they were planning to move in together, and then he said, "You have to get rid of the cats because I'm allergic." And usually those are things that you talk about very early on with people, like, what's your favorite animal or whatever? What kind of animals do you have? And in that case, Katie would have said, "We have cats," right? Or we have a cat. Right. So, but great point, C. Taylor. Yeah, absolutely. He did do that when they moved in my opinion. Billy B, for you, good to see you. So great to see you. Thanks for being here. The cats went right away because Chris could not live with them. Yeah. And I don't know how long they dated before they moved in together. So that's another thing to consider. Yeah, that should have been that was definitely the first warning sign on Chris, in my opinion, like the big one, right? Making fun of or making her get rid of the cats, um, knowing that she had cats when they met, right? So very, very odd behaviors there.
Victim. Do I think the mother will eventually turn on the stepfather? I hope so. I hope so. But it would be, I think, in a sense, to her detriment. So I think they were in this one together in terms of that, knowing full well that they created that environment. Someone wrote, "It's scary that Sebastian is having to wear."
Absolutely. I agree with what Peter's saying. The reason why she won't turn and why he won't turn is because they're equally involved.
Will eventually turn on the stepfather. I hope so. I hope so. But it would be, I think, in a sense, to her detriment. So I think they were in this one together in terms of that, knowing full well that they created that environment. Someone wrote, "It's scary that Sebastian is having to wear pull-ups at age 15 at his mother's." And I agree, it is scary. Just something I don't find useful to talk about here now. But yeah, in the very least, it's anxiety. I think that when he publicly makes fun of Sebastian, can you imagine what it was like privately for this 15-year-old who may really struggle with certain understandings?
Yeah, that's a huge one right there, guys. Thinking about how badly Chris and Katie both have talked about Sebastian since he's been missing, right? Think about how bad it was for him behind closed doors before he went missing. It had to have been absolutely, completely awful, wretched, and an awful situation to be in. And little Miss Sharon very well said, they're equally yoked. They are equally yoked.
Jason, following up about the number of missing children, and he wrote 460,000 a year. And Jenny, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I hope you give consideration to maybe a blog post on your profile. You did excellent work. Jenny's a colleague. Jason's a colleague.
After an accident, it can be devastating and you don't know where to turn. But if Viles...
I want to know about his military background. I want to interview people that knew him. I want to know what he's like, because his language is the language of a bully. That's why I called him a small man. He's a bully. And a special needs child as a target. Really bad news. If anyone wishes me to present your theory, glad to hear it. I know Pat Brown differs. I think that she believes it's more nefarious. The behavioral panel differs somewhat. I agree with some of the things they said about the not having knowledge of a death. I think that's correct. But I'm not a body language expert, and I like to hear other opinions and that sort of thing. I don't have enough of Mom's language. I haven't finished that lengthy interview. It's pretty rough to listen to. Oh, you think Mom snapped? Okay, Martina, now I understand. Yeah. Martina, I agree. I think Mom snapped. I think there was an altercation, and that was guided by stepfather over the phone. My fear is that they're going to find Sebastian in some place of water, caves, that sort of thing. I hope I'm wrong. Yeah, Jenny, give some consideration for a blog post or sharing that, or however you're comfortable with. I want to know why he said he didn't want his daughter around Sebastian. I'll answer that with a bit of discretion. I believe Sebastian had some significant behaviors and probably was inappropriate. Very concerned about that household and what happened there. There's too, someone was saying you should watch such and such a video. There's too many. These people are constantly on it, and then you have people commenting like me on the video, and I think it gets a little bit repetitive.
And guys, I want to bring up a point that Peter just made, right? He says, there's people that are in the chat that are telling him, watch this video or watch that video, and it's so oversaturated, right? And that's what their plan was to do, in my opinion, was to cause complete chaos, right? And then sit back and laugh and say, yeah, this is really confusing, or nobody wants to hear this crap anymore. And so, I mean, they weren't trying to keep excuse me, Sebastian's name out there. In my opinion, they were turning it into a circus. Hey, Nero V. Yeah, Chris is a narcissist, 100%, in my opinion, too. I know. So sad, Veronica. He's such a good and smart, intuitive individual. And yeah, he's very missed. Yeah, someone else holds that fight theory. Yeah. And Billy, I don't know why they have not spoken out. The Navy, that is. And I know, Seclusion, you have asked that as well. Very odd. Yeah, even if the Navy didn't get involved, but if they still are active in the reserves and things like that, then they still have a commanding officer to report to. Um, exactly. Thank you, little Miss Sharon. Not inappropriate, just autistic. And that's the thing, making him feel naughty for things that are normal is a complete and total. I mean, it's rude as hell, first of all, but it's not something a parent would ever dream of doing, because they understand, you know. So, Joe, I just love living down here in Florida. It's so great. But mostly, well, I'm just gonna be honest. The weather, it's beautiful in Florida. It really is. Um, and the people here are fantastic, in my opinion. A lot of really nice people. Billy B, that's what I've been saying. Where are the people that know the proud feet? Not YouTubers, but actual friends, families, coworkers, etc. That's such a good question and a good point. Forget me not. Yeah, where are all these people? I agree with that too. I don't know how many people actually liked them. You know, I don't know how many people that would actually want to come out and you know go to bat for them. It's just, yeah, he's good-hearted as well, Veronica, truly. And V says he's abusive to Nina's kids too. He's a bully and a coward, narcissist, child abuser. I agree. And it's not often that we see all of these comorbidity. Speaking of comorbidity, but with Chris, we see so many of these toxic traits, and the same goes for Katie. The same goes for Katie. Because at the end of the day, all of these toxic traits and personality disorders that we're talking about all stem from deep seated trauma, childhood trauma, and also, even though they're not diagnosed until adulthood, and then also, I think a big contributing factor um, is generational trauma.
Interesting. Chris admitted he interacts with Sebastian on phone calls. That may have been one of them. What is the wildlife where Sebastian has gone missing? What's it like? Great question, Jason. I'm wondering about predation and potentially his body being impacted for sure. Yeah, they did one interview where they kept their faces off. I think that may have been a little bit because stepdad has some trouble controlling his emotions. He strikes me as someone with very poor impulse control. I would like to know if mother has Child Protective Services history, what accusations have been like. Yeah, there could be some very ugly things beneath this all. Is it true the police were called to that house? I don't know. If I could say anything in closing to those who interview stepfather and mother, don't be afraid to ask tough questions. Use as few words as possible. No preamble, no moralizing, no saying, I just want Sebastian found. We know that. You might get them to echo some of these things that you're saying, and you're innocent. So as an interviewer, know that Chris's personality, he likes it. He likes the challenge.
This is really important right here too, guys, what Peter's about to say, and I'll rewind it back just a little bit. But this is really important because when you're doing when you're conducting a proper interview with someone, you ask a short question, an open-ended question, and you allow for them to answer it. You don't, give them a bunch of ideas because that you could be planting seeds and you could be making it easier on them to answer, right? And someone who's lying or being untruthful or deceptive, they are going to look for an easy out. And so I think that's very important here to recognize. Town Chat Cafe, I think music is a wonderful alternative to pharmaceuticals all day, every day. There are tons of things that we can do, and therapies are really, really important in order to give us the kind of coping skills that we need and that are necessary to overcome some of the trauma and things like that. So, yeah, music is a huge one. Guided meditation's another one I like. Journaling, there's a lot of them.
Use as few words as possible. No preamble. No moralizing. No saying, I just want Sebastian found. We know that. You might get them to echo some of these things that you're saying, and you're innocent. So as an interviewer, know that Chris's personality, he likes it. He likes the challenge. He wants to know what people are thinking. He's following social media very closely. He's got enough energy, enough wind in his sails to be arguing with people on Facebook and dispensing marital advice. He's not consumed with grief. Mom's hurting. Mom's got some guilt in there. But I don't believe they killed him and hid the body. I think they created an atmosphere that it was really time for him to get out. But I think they locked the door behind him or sent him out. Given the machismo of the stepfather, I wouldn't be surprised if he humiliated Sebastian regularly. So I just read that comment from someone. Someone said, I haven't seen anything that stands out to make them guilty. The guilt that I'm describing is the home environment. Someone else wrote that they don't think anything was premeditated. No, and from the other comment, I think something went wrong that day, and there was some real anger. Hence the need to say, oh, I love you, Mama, over and over. So I do worry about the humiliation. Stepfather's a classic narcissist, grandiose. I agree. And those of you.
Right, grandiose, right? So grandiosity, delusions of grandeur, right? Absolutely. And I like Chris McDonough, and the one thing that I found to be really interesting that I never watched the interview. Well, it was a panel actually with Josh from the lab, Chris McDonough, and Dr. Gary Bricado, and I was amazed that I was amazed that Chris McDonough had talked about Summer Wells and how it looks like they took straight from the Don and Candace playbook. And I was amazed because I had actually done a couple of videos before I even realized that that's what they were doing, because they brought it up on Queen Bee, and I gave some examples of it and everything. But Chris was spot on with that one. And there's a lot of things he has. He's a great interviewer. In the way that he makes people feel very comfortable. He did wonders with Candace, in my opinion. But I understand not everyone is going to be each other's cup of tea. You know what I mean? So I get that. I get that, Lana. Yeah, and I believe it was premeditated, in my opinion.
That know my work, I don't like to be that strong. I say narcissistic as a description, I've just seen it too often. Well, if you'd like, I'll put more, as I listen to more of it, I'll put some of the commentary analysis on X. You can see it there, sometimes on Facebook. But I'll continue to follow the case, and I'll hear the other interviews that were given.
Okay, guys, so that's pretty much all from our friend Peter Hyatt. Just does a great job of helping us understand from his perspective, someone with his background. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to find a spot. There we go. That's my spot. And, I just find it to be very interesting, especially at this juncture, knowing what we know now. And a key symptom of narcissist is an inflated ego to cope with the inner self or of failure. Yeah, they absolutely have an inferiority complex, in my opinion, Nero V, that causes that overinflated ego. Yeah, and because they can't cope with it, they can't even fathom it, right? They lack that self-awareness, you know. So you're not blocked in the chat, Joe. I see ya. I see ya. And I did see this comment from MC Rapping Recovery. I actually really get a kick out of how Seth and Chris made a pact to walk this road together. And then, like 7 a.m., he was on Peter Hyatt's podcast, and they decided that Katie was the key. Well, and that's the thing. Seth didn't say barely anything in that interview. He was basically listening to Peter. But here's the thing that I think that we need to consider when it comes to uh, them saying that they're going to be working together. So Chris showed up at the vigil before the vigil started and told Seth that he wanted to work together, and told Seth that he needs to tell the public that they're working together and to stop with all the BS, right? Because it's our fault, according to Chris. And that's another thing that you'll find with narcissists, is that they will always project their negative behaviors onto other people. They'll gaslight you, they'll turn things around. They'll blame you for doing the very thing that they're doing or that they do. And so we definitely see this with Chris and blaming the public. So Seth agrees, right? And then Chris and Katie take off and they go shopping for motorcycles while Seth is there to accept an award at the vigil for Sebastian and his participation in the agriculture program at school. And they were nowhere to be found because they were too busy shopping for motorcycles or at a motorcycle shop, right? And they were spotted out and a picture was taken of them. But what I find to be even more interesting is that Seth gets on the panel with Peter, and Peter says that Katie holds the key. In my opinion, if someone like Peter was commenting on my child's missing case, that would change everything for me. And it wouldn't matter that Chris came up and started crap and caused an issue. In my opinion, it would negate every single thing Chris said, because to me, Chris wouldn't make a difference to me. I would want the opinions of the experts. And I think that could have really changed the perspective. I mean, Katie does hold the key. Nobody was saying anything malicious to Katie. They were just stating, the cold hard facts. And as we see, and as we're talking about different personalities and different personality types, Peter is a very serious, very matter of fact, very literal type of a person, and he just says it how it is. He's in no way rude. he's just pointing out the obvious, and he's observing behaviors that he is used to seeing. And again, it's amazing how these experts called it out so early on. None of them were looking at Seth, and all of them were looking at Chris and Katie. That's a really big one in my opinion. So I think that's important to kind of understand that kind of the context. Yeah, McDonough in the lab, and Dr. Gary Mercado was on that one too, Joe. Chris McDonough is he has his own um podcast with his wife, his lovely wife, and it's called The Interview Room. And then Dr. Gary Mercado also has his own podcast as well. Um, I like all of them, Joe. I like all of them. You know. Yeah, rest in peace, Peter Hyatt, right? C. Taylor. Yeah. Oh, I definitely think he bullied Seth that day. Yeah, MC Rapping Recovery, and I was trying to be delicate with it because I didn't want to, say anything bad about Seth. But yeah, he was absolutely coming over there, puffing his chest out, being a jerk, talking about getting into people's personal space. His foot was way too close. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. I was like, you're not blocked in here, Joe. Well, and I think that they were upset because they wanted Seth to be, united front with them, but nobody was okay with that. Not even, someone like an expert in their field, right? Like Peter Hyatt. He was like, "No, wait a minute. They're involved. So why would you, why would you work with them if they're involved?" Granted, Katie holds the key, but yeah. Yeah, and couponing, it's just it's sad. It's very sad. Well, and it's okay to have differences of opinion, um, on everyone, that is in the public eye. That's kind of part of it. That's part of what you're signing up for when you even if you just put yourself out there, on anything. You could be interviewed by someone randomly, from the news crew, and somebody could say, "Oh, look at that person's, look at the way they talk, look at that lady's shirt, look at this, look at that." You know what I mean? So you put yourself out. When you put yourself out there, and then if you speak your opinion, you're even opening yourself up more, vulnerable, putting yourself in a more vulnerable position, right? Because then people can critique and talk about your opinion. So, I mean, and like I said, not everyone's going to be each other's cup of tea. So, but I just kind of wanted to go over this interview again tonight, guys. And again, I'm still working on the other video, and more to come in this Sebastian Rogers case. But it's just kind of, like I said, the one live link for the video someone had sent me. I'm still waiting on them to send me the video, um, the live link, I should say. And I thought I could have sworn I saved it, but I'm gonna have to go back and double check and look. Um, and then also I want to see if Ann Reynolds can get me that video, but I know she had some doctor's appointments today. So and I can probably find one online of a keychain flashlight, but I want to use the one that she has as an example, and see how bright it is and that sort of thing. So um Yeah, they do. They do. Everybody and people like to dissect things, which is okay. That's actually not a bad quality, Veronica. It's kind of good that people do like to dissect and examine things further because that's how we find a deeper understanding. I think so too, Lana. I think that thank you so much for being here. We're happy to have you. But yeah, and it is. Peter was right about Sebastian. A lot of what he said made a lot of sense. Knowing what we know now, you know, and we have to use logical thinking and critical thinking, little Miss Sharon, we do. But I think knowing what we know now, it's a little bit different. Veronica, Josh cracks me up. I just love him to pieces. He is so funny. Um, but in intelligent too. Josh is a good guy as well. Um, but yeah, with that being said, I think it's important to kind of reanalyze these things. But it's absolutely amazing the things that they pick up that he picked up on, and I was gonna say they because of Pat Brown because we did go over hers as well. But now I'd like to go back to Chris and Katie's interviews. So I think we're gonna start out doing that. I'm just gonna have to um, do some editing, some listening. So we'll do that. But I think it's very important in order for us to understand fully, and again, re-examine it with what we know now, comparing it to what we know now. But and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. We need to really focus on what the correct narrative is out there. Um, we just do. It's important to focus on the correct narrative rather than the one that we like the best. And the one or the one that the TBI and the Sumner County Sheriff's Office want to spoon feed to the FBI and the general public that hasn't been following Sebastian's case. So that's what we're going to be focusing in on coming up. And then, of course, we have a wonderful live coming up during the day, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, talking about Devlin uh, Tait, who is missing out of Odessa, Michigan. So I'm excited about that. We're going to have special guests with Panda Bear's mom and Town Chat Cafe. It's going to be a really great, informative live, and I think that you guys will enjoy it. Um, but I will see you all later on this afternoon around 12:30 or 1 o'clock Eastern time. So definitely come by and check out the show, and hopefully I can get some of this uploaded. Even if I do it in pieces, I might just do that because I know the first interview with Duchess was like 3.5 hours long. So let me see what I can get it condensed down to, and maybe we'll go over that tomorrow during the day. So, excuse me. But thank you all so much for being here and for joining the conversation and for sharing your ideas and theories in the chat, experiences. I love having you guys all here so very, very much. It's always so great to have all of you in chat. So you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you all so very much. Stay safe out there.